So I'm in 7th grade and I'm playing basketball for the first time ever on a team. And I'm pretty bad at basketball, but I'm on a really good team. And so this is a game at the end of our season. We're up by like 50 points on our opponent.
That's my teammate.
And our coach calls timeout with 2 minutes left and brings us into a huddle. And he says, who here hasn't scored in this game? I'm the only one who raises his hand. So the coach says, our goal is to get Adam the ball so that he can score. We exit the huddle, go back out onto the court. I get the ball in my hands and I shoot it. And it's headed towards the basket, and it's an air ball. But my team gets the rebound, passes it back to me. I shoot again, another air ball. This happens 4 more times. I catch it, shoot it, air ball, catch, shoot, air ball. Final buzzer goes off and I am dejected. I'm so sad. And then the worst part, our team is having a pizza party right after the game. And so I'm going through the pizza line with tears rolling down my cheeks and Kool-Aid wings on my mouth. I have never felt more left out than I did on that day. And maybe this has never happened to you, you've never had a moment like that, but you've probably felt left out before. It's never a fun moment when you feel like you don't belong, especially when it's something that you don't have control over, something that you can't change. I mean, in this basketball scenario, I was able to practice and get better for the next season, but sometimes it's not something you have control over, especially if it's something like your age or your height or the way you look. Doesn't it feel really bad when those types of things are the things that leave you left out of something or makes you feel like you don't belong? It does for me. And actually 2,000 years ago, this was happening during Jesus' time on earth as well. And it was especially true if you were someone who was sick. I mean, if someone got sick during this time, they would be completely kicked out of society and they would actually be called unclean. They weren't even allowed to associate with other people. They had to stay on the outskirts of society. I mean, it was like being quarantined during COVID, but there was no one to bring you snacks and there was no Disney Plus. Honestly, I don't even know what they would do with their lives. And of all the sicknesses someone could get back then, the worst one was probably leprosy. Leprosy was a really contagious skin disease, and if you had leprosy, no one was coming near you. Not a single person. And actually, there's a story in scripture where Jesus interacts with someone who has leprosy, and I want to read it together. So if you have a phone or a Bible, let's look at Luke chapter 5, verses 12 to 13 together to see what Jesus does with this man who has leprosy. Luke says, in one of the villages, Jesus met a man with an advanced case of leprosy. When the man saw Jesus, he fell to the ground, face down in the dust, begging to be healed. Lord, he said, if you want to, you can make me well again. Jesus reached out and touched the man. I want to, he said, be healed. And instantly the leprosy disappeared. Whoa, did you see what Jesus did in this story? I mean, it's probably hard for us to understand the cultural shock of what he's doing here, but it's kind of crazy. I mean, think about who Jesus is. He's God. And so if Jesus wanted to, he could have healed this man by just saying something. We've seen him do it before. I mean, he's God. He could have healed this guy in his sleep while flipping a burger, but he didn't. Did you notice how Jesus decided to heal this man? He reached out and he touched him. I mean, if you think about this guy, he's probably had leprosy for years and years, which means for him, he's had no physical contact with anyone. That's no hugs, no high fives, no handshakes, and then Jesus reaches out and touches him. It's not just that Jesus helped this guy, it's how he helped him. You see, Jesus had compassion for the outsiders. He didn't just want to help them physically, he wanted to show that he loved them by giving them compassion. Guys, Jesus is showing us an incredible example of how we should be living. Jesus shows compassion to people who feel like they don't belong, who feel like they're outsiders. Which, by the way, if you're here and you feel that way, you feel like an outsider, or you feel like you don't belong, I want you to know you belong here. We already consider you part of our family, and we love you. We feel this way because of how Jesus feels about us. Because of the compassion that Jesus showed us, it's now our job to go and show that compassion to other people. So right now, think with me for a second. Who is it that you know that's an outsider? Someone that's on the outskirts of your friend circles. And honestly, it's probably not someone that you know very well. I mean, that's kind of the point, right? They're an outsider. Of course you don't know them very well. Think about who is that person? And then secondly, think about what you can do to show that person compassion. And it might be the person that has the AirPods in and the hoodie pulled up. It might be the kid that really thinks they're funny, but they're just not that funny. It might be the girl that just isn't interested in the same things that you are. I don't know who the person is that's an outsider in your life, but you need to figure out who that person is and then ask yourself, how can I show compassion to them? And you might be sitting here thinking, wait a minute, that sounds really uncomfortable. Like, that sounds like it's gonna be hard, and I don't know if I really wanna get into that. Yeah, that's kind of the point. It is gonna be uncomfortable for you. But here's the deal. If you follow Jesus, our job is to get uncomfortable so that other people can be comfortable. Jesus reached out and touched someone who had leprosy because he knew that's what that person needed to understand the compassion Jesus had for him. And so now it's our job. We get to ask ourselves, who's the outsider that we know, and what can we do to show compassion to them?